What can really get us going, you know, is if we can get mad about something. Man, oh man, if we can really get stirred up about something, then we can go and do something. And a lot of leadership know that. And so they kind of sow those kinds of seeds to where you really get mad about something. And they know how to push buttons, you know, to where that can drive you. And we've seen the results this last week in a lot of ways. Because when anger gets loose, it gets very irrational in a hurry. We don't even know why we do the things we do. Do stupid things and then defend it. Try to make it look good. I don't know if you ever, before you go to sleep at night, remember that 90% of all of the death and destruction of our wars are on innocent people who didn't have anything to do with it. I don't know if you've ever been in a minefield or if you've been where they've mortared a place or bombed a place, but years after that, the crops are poor. The land is putrefied. We may have a time of confession. There's always the I. And sometimes we really like to get into that in a hurry. Because I didn't do any of those really bad things. I mean, I did a few naughty things, and I can confess those and go on about my business. Kind of ignore the rest. And they say that confession is good for the soul. It's a healthy thing to do, you know. If you confess, you feel better. And if you go and you tell your spouse the things that you've been thinking or doing that were not kindly to them and they forgive you, everything feels better. Supper's a lot better that night. So we can kind of manipulate confession in a lot of ways to where we really feel good about ourselves. And after all, that's what some of the professional people tell us that confession is all about. It's to make us better, healthier people. So if we go through that process every so often, we really contribute to our long life. There's psychologism about all this, you know, that if you come to finally have a way to forgive yourself, then, you know, you're stronger for it. You can deal with things. You can, you know, look better. But if you look at confession and confession of sin, and many people say the only people that know about this is really the saints. I don't know if you've had time to read St. Teresa, not Mother Teresa, but St. Teresa's The Seven Castles, or St. John of the Cross, Dark Night of the Soul. Tremendous classical exercises in what it means to confess and to find new life in that. But if you look at confession not as a way to make me feel better, but as a way to God, a way to reach out and touch the deeps of my life and to discover what's really going on down there. What really makes my time, my time. What really makes my world, my world. What really makes me as a relationship in that. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle. It's not something that you do occasionally. It's a constant. to put down roots in God, to begin to see yourself as God's creation, rather than as a manifestation of my own desires, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You fill in the blank. What does it mean to be God's creation here on earth? How do I find that self? Rather than all of these little private inventions of self that I keep popping up as a matter of convenience, as a matter of struggle. But what if I want to see myself as a child of the creation of the universe and to live out of that rootedness? That's a different kind of confession. That's a profound kind of confession. And then there's forgiveness. How we have trivialized the whole notion of forgiveness. Somebody says, it's okay. You know, you tell them what you did, it's all right. And I immediately feel better that they're not going to hold it against me. Or I go through a process where I find that I'm not such a bad person after all. Or more likely I find out that those people were just as bad as me. That's even better, isn't it? That really makes me feel good. An interesting thing, you can read it if you get the Southwest Texas News or any of the Methodist News. There's a tremendous article in there about what the scholars have been doing and finding out about the writings of Paul, and has some great statements about Michael Marcus Ford, a friend of mine, and Dominic Crossan and some other people who are scholars, and also about Dr. Richard Hayes, who's a New Testament professor at Duke Seminary. And what Hayes has discovered, he's a linguist, is that the translation in the New Testament that for years and years and years has been faith in Jesus Christ, have faith in Jesus Christ, is a poor translation. And that instead of that, the word should be through the faithfulness of Jesus Christ. Now that turns everything on its head. For a long time, you know, we've played the game of faith and works. That is, that you're not saved by your faith and you're not saved by your works, but you have to have faith in order to be saved, and you have to do good. You know, you remember that triangle? And if you study Paul or Pauline writings, you know, you get into that cycle. This is more like Wesleyan theology to say that it's through the faithfulness of Jesus Christ. It's not my faith, it's not my works that produces forgiveness, salvation, all these good things, but rather through the faithfulness of Jesus Christ. Or to say it in other words, it is God's grace which takes it into another level. That forgiveness is not some kind of erasure or some kind of checklist for my breaking my relationship with God, myself, and others. But it is through the grace of God, not something I believed, not some work that I did, but through the grace of God that my wholeness is given. And they point to Paul for this, because Paul was faced with a heavy issue.